the bat is your opponent plays a very old type of way. This approaching on the second move by white is very, very common in no Komi games. So it's very, very likely white is adopting the strategy because white has half point Komi. This suggests that white studies Shusaku or Shua or like games from the 1800s. Black does what black is supposed to do. There's not really much to comment. Black could respond locally. If black does respond locally, it just turns into this really interesting Tawari where it's like white played normal, but then for some reason black enclosed the corner with 1 and gave 2 to white, which is worse than the standard Shimari. It's like by half a point. So this is the reason why black is usually flying here. Black does that and white presses and everything is as expected. No real comments about the game so far. I think everything that you're doing is quite normal. The one deviation maybe you could play is this. This is also a move here. Hanging the head low to look for the secure base. It's very, very useful in relation to the forcing move at A by white. This is going to be the main difference between the location of the stone at 1 versus 2. So now when we imagine white goes for some tactic here, normally black is playing like the Hane, but in some cases black would like to play here. But there's going to be many instances where having the lower stone means that white is not going to be able to catch you. Right. You can see how this is going to be working for black. So we can sort of think about that versus this one, where later in the game, if black tries to cut through, white can make the pattern. And then in this particular shape, white is cutting. Right. So just something to keep in mind. When you have the high one, later when white is coming, we usually have to give it. So that's the big difference. But it's very small difference. Not to say one is a mistake or better than the other. Point of knowledge to know the difference between the two. White is coming up. This move is possible, but it's a bit strange on this board, to be honest. Normally we see white when the top area is controlled by black, we typically see white play low here. The main difference is in the power of a black attacking move around A. A becomes a little bit more severe if the stone is on the 4th line. So to kind of look at that, right? If we imagine this one and then white Tanuki, oh, let's say Tanuki here. Later, black can attack from this place. Or you can imagine a sliding attack like this to undercut the base would be another sort of older style patient move. But it's the fact that black has this ability to really come in makes it difficult for white to handle. Whereas with this one, if white Tanukis, white is not really concerned with black playing this type of move. White can Hane above, white can Hane below, and white's going to be able to settle because black is playing a contact move instead, right? So that's a small difference by the white player here. Maybe something they're aware of, maybe something they're not aware of, but it does make this a point, at least at some point in the future, for black quite attractive. And so in the game, black plays this one. Yeah, 3-3 I don't think can necessarily be wrong. Although if black takes Gote here, it is worth noting that let's just imagine white blocks this direction and plays extension and black takes the Gote. When white gets to enclose, it makes the position of white's h16 a little bit better. This is going to be because now as black is coming in, white can double down and ask for trading. And if black jumps, white can maybe even do something like this to stabilize, or white could simply attach in the corner to stabilize. And then the move at g17 sort of loses its power. The h16 stone can stay relatively light. White will trade the profit for the upper right corner area. So just something to keep in mind. So there's a merit for black to enclose the top or play here versus invading the corner at this time. R14 is okay as well. I don't think the direction of the Shamari matters so much. If you want to play this one to limit the wall, then it's probably meaning that when white eventually plays this approach, which is something we expect to happen, then black is probably going to play some type of pincer, maybe this one or this one to break it, or maybe black will come from this side. But usually the direct block is just removing any useful move that white has on the top side. Now, later, if white wants to settle, white's probably going to have to contact you. And white has to make this kind of contact, and white is giving additional profit to black in the corner. You can imagine, right? If like this sort of thing were to happen, just for white to gain some stability here, black gains a lot of territory at the corner this way. So not so useful. On the top side, there's not a lot of useful moves for white. Whereas this way, this approach is still a good spot for white to play. Not necessarily, because you still have a severe continuation. If K17 didn't hold like any Sente threat, like white could just ignore it and there was no good follow up, I would say that's the case. But the problem is you've got moves like this, which pressure white's wall. You've got moves like this, which might begin to expand the corner. And all of this stuff can sort of happen by Sente, right? And then all of a sudden you've got this, which can come out of nowhere. That's one way you can play, or you can follow up here. And then, yeah, white can block it, but black is getting a huge profit. And then, like, if we imagine something like this, for example, this one turn, we kill the stone, white connects. Black gained the whole corner without resistance. The white E17 stone sort of died for white sins. Then at that point, if black ever wants to fortify the corner, black can just enclose again. The K17 stone has been used. It's a Kikashi, a good forcing move. And we don't ever really care if white comes in anymore. Black has already gained quite a bit of profit. And the only thing that black had to do was give white A. Right? But that A stone is paid for by white losing B. That's kind of how we would look at it. And so they kind of get traded, right? So black is not even really coming down a tempo here. Black is still maintaining tempo and gaining an extra move at the corner in the top right. In the shape it in the shape it becomes a good Kikashi because white had to connect at C. Right? If white omits the connection, let's say white plays something else, then when black cuts, it's also useful because now black gets the whole upper territory and the four stones are weaker. We've already played K17. Oh, you mean in like the Tawari? Sure, to some degree, but it also has a follow up. All right, because it can extend and then white doesn't have eyes. Or it can descend and threaten connection, and also white is losing eye space and black is gaining territory. So either way, it's not a forcing move that's losing black points. It's a forcing move that's actually gaining points. So it ends up becoming a very good Kakashi here. So this is why like K17 as a follow up can't really be slow because the white group on top is so strangely positioned. I can't really say like it's super weak. It's not strong, but it's for white to treat the two stones lightly, white would need to sacrifice some one of them and get a decent result with a good future. If white can't achieve a decent result with a good future with one of the two stones, then the area becomes heavy, and white has to save both to avoid a loss, and it's just not going to be uh, not going to be a great time for white. I think this by white is white's mistake, because white should be ending this pattern with Sente, but white chooses a variation that ends the pattern in Gote. It would be better for white. I know I'm reviewing with both from both sides, but it would be better for white to play this one. Because the one positive that white can get out of the A stone on the whole board is that the A stone is on the fourth line, which signifies what? Right, and we like to use influence towards the center to do what? And to attack, right? So it has some attacking presence. That's what we would say. It has attacking potential. Um, and if white wants to use attacking potential naturally here, white needs to be able to get another, like, get enough pressure around the attack target. What's white's attack target in the shape? Well, it's the top. It would be the top left corner, right? The shape is very strong, but when white plays B, it's still attackable. Like you're still coming under attack. You're going to owe a move to defend it. Otherwise, you're going to get chased into the center, right? It's just not a shape that's easily cuttable, so it's very hard to attack directly. You throw a stone next to a thick group and it's thin, and you just get cut and then you die. But that's why we have to think about how can we surround it naturally versus directly. And so this knight's move is a good invitation for white to create a position to do that, because it allows white the opportunity to offer this pattern to black. You might be familiar with the go to hell Joseki. That's what this one is. But this Joseki has a very specific sort of inclination, and that's the fact that it can often end up as a seki in the corner. But if white wants, white can sacrifice the seki and let black kill the corner, but in exchange, white gets this thickness. And when white has the thickness, white can approach black even tighter. And so the resulting pattern is that even though white loses out a little bit locally in the bottom left corner, because at any point black might be able to change the balance of a possible seki in some cases, white now has 3 moves to black's 2, and it was originally black's corner. So white's gaining the advantage back against the diagonal, and this would be a good way for white to continue moving forward. This would be white solving the local problem in the bottom left in a way that's positive for the next important thing white would be doing, if that makes sense. So, yeah, so this is what I would be aiming for if I was white, right? This also means that if black can read ahead, 50 moves, and understand what's going to happen, black is probably not going to go for the flying knife, and instead black's going to simplify. But if black simplifies, white can also offer to black the fight, which would be this one. And then white can play diagonal, give up Atari, this, and then this one. And then white can use this fight as well to try to influence the upper left corner. So this is another... Hmm? Yeah, this would right. This would be white having that idea in the back of white's mind. Of course, black could also avoid the fight, right? But if black avoids the fight, something interesting happens. White gets to switch the direction, right? When black goes here, white goes here, black can finish the shape, but again, white gets thick, and so white can go close. But all of these would be using the fact that white's going to end the variations in Sente with thickness on the left side to turn this A stone into a high value attacking move rather than a light defensive one. It repurposes the stone. So in that situation, right, it's going to be very difficult for like black to refute it. This is something that white can do because black decided to give up the tempo with the C3 invasion instead of capitalizing on that benefit that black could have gotten against A. It's not to say that black made a mistake, right? It's just that black chose not to get that profit, and white happens to have a natural way to remove it. Make sense? Mhm. Right. And then we'll use it to strengthen our top side naturally so that any black move on the top side becomes losing tempo for black. It's going to sort of guarantee, no matter what now, that white's probably going to safely get to one and convert the upper side area. As black, we should be aware that if the game goes this way, that's probably what's going to happen. If black wants to endure against it, black can play enclosure now, but then you're giving up another really powerful move to white. And probably what's going to end up happening is you're going to have to make a bunch of bad exchanges just to secure living shape in the corner. And then once you've secured the life, white's going to Taniki and continue building either here, or white could do this one, or white could fly, right? So, but the key idea, right, is that white does have the option to use that A stone for something beneficial. Stone meanings can change. So it can turn from light defensive to this repurposed attacking move if white can solve the bottom left in a way that lets white do it naturally. But this is why this Hane can't really be good direction for white, because white loses the tempo of Sente and black gets thickness that doubles up with the thickness in the top left. Now it's very hard for white to step on the left side effectively at all, which means that the white A stone loses any potential offensive value. It gets damaged further. And so now, if black comes to this point, this stone becomes incredibly questionable. Um,
perfect. So I don't really want all of this additional information. What I really want is just the answer. So now let's make that adjustment. Okay, so I made a few changes here. First, we get the response text, then we load the JSON, then we parse the JSON right here, then we get the actual response, the response from the model, from this JSON, then we print it. Let's try one more time. There it is, perfect. Now we have the response.
Welcome back, George. All right, so yeah, so in this, I heard the chiming of whatever sounded like an alarm. No worries. Yeah, so if you come to this kind of point now, right? Then you've sufficiently punished the H16 weird placement. And it might only amount to maybe a point, or a point and some fraction of a point difference in score by the end, like according to like AI type of metric, right? It might not be huge difference. But for human game, not being able to use this H16 stone and having a very awkward shape will often generate anywhere from 5 to 10 points worth of advantage. So at this point, if black can come back to 8K17 and like really punish, this is a very attractive place. Seems you went for enclosing the corner, which is fine. If I was white here, I would be trying to aim it like this. This would be my idea to try to settle things quickly. Instead, white is yeah. So it's because when this comes, I block you. And then what's your follow up on the upper side? If you play this one now, I mean it's doable, but I have Aji inside the shape now. Later I have Hane, right? So it makes things, this exchange makes things not as clear when black tries to come. Plus, I'm on the high place, which means I can even just consider this one to dodge it. And I'm getting good control of the center, even though it looks like black is gaining a lot of territory. It's not really so much. But this one is not really reasonable for white. Black just got thick on the left side from bottom left corner, and white is trying to invade it. This is a classic case of the most direct punishment is often the best one. So I would think of really two choices here for black. I would think of jumping and I would think of pincer, and that'd be about it. And jumping is the first one that comes to mind because this one is the one that leaves white with a very obvious, awkward to handle weakness. You can play A directly now. So if white is saving at A, then black is able to have a repincer. And when black has this repincer, or maybe even black can choose to play slightly more defensive. But when you have the repinch, next move follow up is not easy for white. If white jumps, then natural black can back. Okay, cool. We're back. Yeah, I realized halfway through my explanation that I probably was experiencing a internet lag or hiccup. Yeah, if white connects to fortify the upper side, then black can even just peep and seal, and white is pretty cooked. So white can't really expect to fight this easily, which is why this pincer is a bit overplay by white. So in the game, you chose to come from upper side. Okay, it's not the direction I would have chosen immediately, but probably it's possible. And white plays attachment. Okay, attachment is can't really be good for white. This one leads to white having a broken shape for not much benefit. Um, right, like black can just even push in here. Like if white descends, we can cut. So white connect, we connect. This one doesn't really seem possible. A lot of one don players will do stuff like this because they'll read that they can play this way, and then they'll try to play here. This will be their sort of modus operandum. They think, oh, I'm having so strong attack against the black Ponuki. This is going to be a devastating victory. But there's a problem with this attack. Do you know how to handle this attack, George? I'm going to show you a very strong combination. It starts with c2 asking. Yeah, because if white blocks, it handles the problem directly anyway. White can't really block on this board anyhow because you have n3. A block wouldn't mean much. So white's going to fix it. But now when you push, it makes the Hane exchange that much more devastating to white when you have the second line stone. It becomes more powerful. So if white tries to seal it, like let's say white plays jumping move, then black can just simply dodge by playing Hane. And now it's not super easy for white. White can give Atari. This would be the most common answer. And then at that point, you can just fly. You can do c2 without extending, sure. But I like to ask. I like to ask in the corner first. Sometimes when you do this, white's answer will just be capture, and then you lose all the forcing moves. And now you have to, if you want to get immediately stable, you have to fight against the A stone, which means you're making white stronger for free. All right, so there's a bit of value in doing exchange first, and that when you do this, you guarantee that white cannot capture in one move. So your Hane will always get value. Yeah, so this is not really going to be working for white. So I don't know why white is playing this attachment. Probably white thought it was correct shape, and so white didn't really put a lot of stock into thinking about the better move. But then white realized white couldn't cut, so white came back to connect the cut. Black can just give the Atari here though, because if white counter Ataris, the cut is working. And then if like this, you can just connect and break it. And now white's got two big problems. Black can capture from A, or black can block at B. They're like a miai. So if white is playing like, for example, extending at B to maintain connection, then I'll just kill the 2 stones. And if white plays A to catch the 2 stones, then I'll cut off the side stone here. Either way, it's going to be fine for black. So not really much black can have to worry here. Okay, you just chose to connect. That's fine too. White block in the corner. This is necessary. Again, you're omitting the Atari. This Atari is easy enough to give. Most Ataris are bad exchanges. And the only reason you wouldn't want to do it is if the Liberty of the Triangled Stone was going to be important for some squeezing Tesuji. There's not a shape I can think of where that stone's going to get squeezed in this corner, so probably okay to give first and then extend. Then you capture and just trade it. The profit is going to be better for black still anyway. Right? Because it's like in the shape locally, whereas black's 1 wasted stone? Black's 1 wasted stone is at D14. White has a wasted stone also, so black isn't losing anything. Both sides captured a piece, so it should be even. But in this result, white is the only player taking damage. Now the 1 stone is in a bad spot. So this one I don't think can be bad for black. And it's also like a matter of if you pull back here and white extends forward, white gets to fix the shape quite a bit. Because even without Atari, or even like this with Atari, later black can still come in to look for separation, possibly. Hard to do immediately now, because if we do it immediately now, there's a cut on the outside followed by this block. So it's a little bit not working yet. But if we can imagine that after that, maybe black can make some exchange like this to strengthen, and then black plays something like this to aim at the left side, then after black has escaped, this type of move can become quite powerful. Of course, we always have to mind that there's the potential for a ladder. So just things to consider, but having that Aji versus not having that Aji should be better for black in most cases. So we do this one, and white extends forward to fix the shape. This is good for white. Black blocking in the corner, this is fine. I think there's equal merit to blocking either side. And then white comes in. Okay, so white is starting this attack again. I don't know if it's reasonable for white to be playing here. He's putting a lot of emphasis on trying to break the left-hand side. But his group in the upper left corner is still not quite strong enough. And then this is where I came into the game at, right? Yeah, it seems that this is going to be fine. Actually, black is already out, so black can use this timing to play here. This would be a bit of like danger level stuff. But the white group in the upper left corner is the biggest value target between both players on the board, so black should have a tempo to play here. Yeah, well, it depends on how white's going to run, right? If white runs with this method, this would be like the way white would try to go to very easily stabilize. White could get a decent shape at the center, but white pays a lot for this. And then from that point, black could, jump it. If white plays the capping move, the cap is not inherently sente. Black could theoretically ignore this and again just break the left side. But the Atari for black is good profit in the corner regardless. The difference between white extending there and black getting Atari is greater than 10 points. That's like a swing value, like 10 points between what both players could stand to gain and lose, right? There's like 10 points in the limbo queue there. So we play the one space jump, which is a nice Tesuji. Can be working. Actually, black can even go one further because cutting is not so simple. There's a bit of a liberty situation going on, but not quite working for white yet. So hard for white to cut it. And if white plays this one, this would be white sort of looking for saving. Black actually is pretty happy with this one too, in most cases. Almost anything, I think, on the left-hand side locally can work. Okay, black gets to come back to this one, which is quite big. And then white pushed and black took. Powerful. Actually, black could also cut. You can break the shape. Because if white connects, this is quite a good Hane. But also, this attachment is quite an annoying vital point. Right, like break the bamboo. And it's not really easy to see how white is going to handle. So seems to me that black is going to have many good options. This one is more like black doesn't mind to give it. Black is sort of looking for trading. Maybe black is wanting to avoid some confrontation, but black is well enough ahead that it almost doesn't matter, truth be told. This capture doesn't really mean much. If the cut directly works, we should cut, and if the cut doesn't directly work, then we're only capturing to enable the cut. I don't really see how it's going to make much of a difference. So if that's the case, it might be better for black to finish the two stones, take the profit, and this one also has a positive impact on the cut. Right? We imagine later black is cutting. If white has to give Atari and tigers, white still can't capture the stones inside, and the capturing race is going to be winning for black by liberty. It's going to be 3 versus 4, and so as a result, it's going to be very difficult for white to fight this. So hard for white to ignore if we do this type of thing. White defended. That's a good move. Okay, black connected to maintain a thickness, and then white escaped. This is good shape to protect the cut. Okay, push is playable. Push is playable. This exchange is not really good for white. I don't really know why white made this exchange. It's bad for the reason of helping the two stones liberties. When we don't make that exchange, moves like the Hane have consequences for black in terms of squeezes and other potential things down the line. But this one removes any squeeze possibility. It really makes black shape quite strong. White should have just extended without making such exchanges. Yeah, Hane's big. Oh, you went for double Hane directly. Okay. I would have probably just connected. Because you can play this one. And then when white is being squeezed down like this, white still only has the one eye. So it's quite big. So this one you were looking for cut, and then what? White can connect. But white cut the wrong side. Is it? That's not so good. Now white is like definitively lost this game. Black is ahead by quite a bit, actually. White has almost no points. Black has something in the neighborhood of like 30 points near cash. Yeah, this is quite big. Although there's an argument to be made for jumping here as well. This move often looks very slow. So I can understand, like, maybe not wanting to play it. But there's a couple of positives that this move has. The first is that your marked stone here was very soft. When white gains a lot of strength in the top left corner towards the center, this stone is eventually going to be a target for white's strength to be useful. So jumping is a great way to sort of forestall that, right? But also it makes invading the corner more difficult for white. There is the possibility white could aim at a ko here, but now black has reclaimed the territory from the corner on the upper side already. So black didn't really lose anything from white's invasion. So it's a contingency against that as well. But thirdly, if we imagine white tanuki, there's still quite a bit of pressure here in the future. Now, right now, it's not going to work because this Atari is going to be a Sente, and then white could play this one. But in general, if you actually look at the whole white shape, white's group is not alive yet. Right? You can even imagine like the full sort of conversion could be something like this. The whole white position is not living. It's like barely an eye and a half. And if white doesn't have the Sente block and would be forced to Atari this way, this is where your capture can actually become useful in some cases. Because even though white can try to capture like this, you can get a bunch of forcing moves. Like, for example, this one, you can go back to play here. You can get a lot of value out of leveraging the cut because white's group does not yet have two eyes, even if you're not playing the cut directly. So this one has positive impact on that group in that way as well. Not quite weak, because the stone itself can slide, can jump back, and come to the center. Like the stone is going to have avenues for safety. It's not a stone that can die easily, but it is a stone that if white is strong enough, white can bully it a little bit. And so that's what I mean by soft, is just simply that the stone is able to be bothered in such a way that it's going to be very, very difficult to very, very difficult. Like it's not difficult, but it's going to be very painful to save it. Saving it's almost always going to be to the benefit of the opponent. That's basically what I mean when I say soft. Yeah, like white's going to be able to move it however white wants to move it. It's very malleable, and then white can get any number of benefits because that stone will require black to move it to save it. Whereas the bottom shape is relatively fixed. Black doesn't actually need to add a stone here. Black is quite strong. So when you're playing this one, you're trying to make the suggestion that white's three stones are weak enough that if black gets another move, white's going to be in danger. And that may be true. White may be incentivized to answer on the right side, but white might be just as incentivized to play something up here. It's actually really hard to say which one's bigger. The continuations are maybe not so clear. Okay, white invaded. This is fine. And then black doubled down. Black said, okay, you ignored, so I'm going to attack you. It makes sense. But actually, with these invasions, you often don't have to rush. You can just play the position out to finality, because these types of exchanges are not necessarily bad for you. If you get Sente, you're going to get back to Q9 anyway. And it's very hard for white to end in Sente when white's the invader. That's just a general rule of thumb. When you're playing in your opponent's strong area, you very often expect to take Gote. That's just the law of the land. Like even here, black can make this attachment. It's a very, very hard move to see, but if black can find it, it's quite useful because the Hane at K17 is going to make this shape alive pretty much immediately. So white would have to defend it. But then at that point, black can jump it. And it's the same problems that white had before, in the sense that once black gets the jump, white's got some life and death problems, right? Like white could exchange this to alleviate pressure on the cut, but white still has to figure out where the eyes are coming from. It's not going to be such an easy problem for white to solve. So with 2 weak groups, 1 weak group, this situation seems a bit more urgent than the bottom right corner. If black ends, when black ends in Sente, I should say, black's going to get that move as a natural course of the game anyway. So I don't think we need to fall into the trap of being too hurried to play it. And then just give up more in the corner because we wanted to rush to attack this other thing. Okay, so then white went here, black went here, turn, white extended. Extend, I guess, is fine. Then black is playing a third move against the corner. Pressing is still quite big. I probably would have covered. Maybe you were worried about white getting to here, but I actually don't mind this because white can't really invade right now anyway. The cut is too severe when we have S4. And if white is making all the bad exchanges at the corner to try to settle like this, I'm thrilled. I am thrilled that white feels that white needs to play this way, because then I'm just going to ignore that, jump at the top, and put pressure on white here. Like, I'm going to force white to, like, find some way to defend themselves. Maybe, like, this, I don't know. Or maybe white will start with this one, and we'll go here, and then white will jump. But then once white defends, I can come back and play this one anyway. It just seems like all roads lead to Rome at this point. Black is going to be pretty much well poised to win the game. I don't really see where white's coming back from this. Oh. White's trying, okay. It's white is trying to endure it. I don't know if I can say it's good, but it's the type of thing white should be doing if white thinks white's losing. If I was black here, honestly, I would probably just jump. This is a soft, sort of patient move, but if white comes back and connects, then I get to cover in perfect shape. And if white pushes, I can cut, and the shape is still good. White will still need to add diagonal or knight's move to cover the weakness. If white, for example, attaches and comes out, this knight's move is threatening the cut at any point, and it's big for territory for black. If white could defend it in Sente and make an eye, but this black block is also going to be quite powerful in the future. So black is going to get a lot of territory out of this. It's not very easy for white. Okay, so black pushes, white blocks. I'm assuming black covers and white hanes, and then black double hanes. Yeah, this is a logical sequence as well. I don't really know where white goes from here. White finally concedes. Okay, cool. So black did not Atari. Strange. Normally Atari is the continuation. Because white can't really save this one stone. If white tries to save the one stone, the whole white shape gets bully squeezed into oblivion. Black will just jump and then consider it a day, or black could even connect here and just allow white to escape like this and then just take the corner. And if white goes into the corner, black can even block it by Sente like this. It's not enough space for white to live locally, so white still needs to run. This is also a case of black is just going to win the game easily. This push. Careful with this one. This one is like usually signaling black is trying to cut and descend, like this is the plan. But the problem with such plans is that you leave your outside exposed very easily. Like there's a cut and then you only have 3 liberties. So white can use the sacrifice to squeeze you. Whenever white gets squeeze play out of sacrificing, it's usually a good sacrifice for white. White found this one. So white is looking for Tetomari. This push is actually quite good, because then white can cut it. And the cut is annoying to deal with. Right, black cannot Atari because of the capture in the corner, so black has to give it, which means white gets the N5 Hane by Sente. And then at any point, white's able to go back and fix either with S7 or with the block. White's going to be able to make eye space for free at black's expense. So it's just going to help white run a little easier. Looks like white played it without sacrificing the one stone. Okay. It's doable. Yeah. Black defended, and so white slides. But sliding here must be a mistake now, I think, right? Because black can just take them. Yeah, it seems black can just take it. And if white plays like this, black can even just Hane this one. The white group is not. It's not working. So this one must be white's mistake. Okay, then black just captures this way. Better to capture with the push because you're keeping more pressure on that S4 point, that cut. Without that one, now when white goes here, white can live. It's easier for white to make a life. It's a small difference in fight, but you know, it can add up over some time. Okay, let's take a look. So white is coming out now. Black is sliding, okay. The slide is a big move. White extends, black settles. Now white's playing an unreasonable attack. This doesn't work. Yeah, that's all fine. And now black is attacking white. I'm not sure you needed it, to be honest. What is the hope? I guess by attacking this one, you're trying to surround the left side. But honestly, I would probably have started with the left side first. I don't think I would have directly attacked the 3 stones. I actually think the 3 stones are easier to capture than the left side. So my first impression would be to come here. Because, yeah, the idea is very clean, right? Like he Hanes, you counter Hane, and what is white doing? Like white can cut, give Atari, but now the left side suffers. If white pushes, black can turn. It's a much stronger surround. Like, because white could defend, but then black's turn is also Sente. White needs to make the life, and then you can just attach to remove the space. You can attach and give Atari. If white connects, you can double Hane. So it's very difficult for white to make a life inside if you start by leaning against the left. So I think this one is just maybe improper attacking direction. A is the slightly stronger group, so it's the group we want to lean on because B is the easier one to capture. Yeah, so white running through is normal. Now black is looking for the bridging attack. Black wants to somehow bridge the gap between the two. This exchange can't be good for white, though. This one is fixing black shape. And then this one is probably sharp. Is there anything better than this? Maybe here first. This and then jump. Probably it's not good enough to do that, though. Maybe even just block is okay. I don't think so much black is worried about this one. Yeah, it seems this one can live easy enough because you have a Tesuji here. You can squeeze it. This one is not possible to kill it. So you could do that one, or you could play here. This one is also working too. I believe you can play some pattern like this and then try to go after the white group in earnest, or maybe you can still go for the same Same sort of Tesuji line. You know, even white can come in one step. White will still have to come back and get squeezed. And then I think even with this squeeze, it's not possible for black to die, really. It seems very difficult for black to kill when black has double wedge and S12 attachment. Although this one might be a little bit more tricky. Yeah. So in the game, you do this one. I think it's fine move. Yeah, white push, black block, white cut, and then black attack underneath. This attachment, I really don't want to touch S12 unless I have to. Normally, it's the back door to connect underneath. When this sort of Tesuji is working, I want to make it because this one has the like unintended consequence of white getting to connect here and then give this Atari, and then if black answers it, white all of a sudden gets to save, and now your R7 becomes completely wasted. So it's not clean. There is some damage that gets happening here. But I don't think white's answer was correct either. I think white could at the very least start with this and then try to make it. Look for something like this. This one, I don't really know what white's hope is because still Tesuji is working. And then black can just fix it. Either this way or this way, right? So I'm going to chuck it up to you probably just didn't see this move. Okay. So this is going to be a lot of fighting mistake then if black cannot find the Tesuji. Yeah, then you find it here. When it's a little bit easier to spot the Liberty shortage. Was this one needed? At this point, you're threatening to cut white, but white can just connect it. I'm not sure there's value in making that exchange, to be honest. I think it's probably better really just to play this Atari and remove all your weaknesses on the left-hand side. Now for white, cutting is not working. White can come back to make it co-shaped, but co is not anything black needs to worry. So this exchange here, I think, loses quite a few points for you. Granted, white can of course cut first, and then this Atari is probably not working, but white could play the second one now and then fix at the center, something like this. White's going to sort of net the eye for free here. Okay. And so here, black can make it. You were worried about this one? Seems you can cut. Seems you can cut. If white connects it, you can make it this. You can make it this cut. White can play Atari, and at worst case, he can make a ko. I don't think it's working for white. But okay. Black makes extension coming down. And again, white is allergic to cutting. I don't know why white is allergic to cutting at Q10, but white is allergic to cutting. Finally, white does it. And it's working. And at this point, I think black is now behind. And I think maybe black had to trade it. Because still not so easy for white to deal. If the group in the center can be cut off, this trade is probably necessary for black. Yeah, you're good. Welcome back, welcome back, welcome back. Yeah. So in this particular case, it's like really difficult, I think, for white to handle. If white doesn't make this cut and white just connects everything out and says, okay, black can make the connection, the whole position gets weak for white because, again, white has to deal with stuff in the corner when black gets this move. So I don't think it's possible. I think white has to connect. And then when white connects here, or cuts here to connect the corner, black can play Atari. So I think for black, the big miss here was that black has to countercut and trade. It's not enough for black to give it. And then I think after this, black is only a little behind. Only a little behind when white is making the capture. So let's take a look. Now we switch our attack target. Okay. Then we bully the corner a little bit. We peep. We try to build to the center. We protect. Was that move necessary? This one seems a bit slow. I think you can protect it the same way here. And this one will have the added benefit that later when you block like this, you play F2 naturally with no qualms, right? And then this one is, again, just not working for white. You can cut, and there's no way for white to save it. Okay, white pushes. This is white's attempt to save white's corner. This makes sense. That's good. Block at this timing was the biggest. I don't know if G2 is the biggest here. This peep is quite big. You can make this one. It might seem a bit strange. How can peep be big? But actually, you can build quite some points at the center by Sente with this move. Like if white connects, you can push. You can get this one for free, and later you can jump. So yeah, seems like this one could also be a candidate. But okay, we block G2. White pulls up, which definitely cannot be right. Black blocks, white pushes, black gets the attachment. This is big. Yeah, we can imagine this world. And then, so right now you guys are effectively playing in game. Seems like after the tragedy that sort of happened on the right side, black has managed to keep the game somewhat even. So you're not losing anymore after that. You're actually playing end game well enough that you're making some of the points back. I have not counted, but the game should be fairly close. Maybe within Komi for either side. We'll see what happens. Okay, black, yeah, Sente. Again, this is also Sente. You're threatening to cut white's corner off, which is quite big. White fixes, you block, and then white ignores. You cut, okay, wild. And then white connects. So white thought that the corner was safe. That's what this was. White thinks the corner is safe. And if black tries to force the shape into something like this, the corner will be safe. But if black plays t2, this is the solving move for the Semego problem. It's actually very difficult for white to find a clean life now. If white maximizes eye space, black can just thrust. You see? Yeah. So white is actually dead. No way to save it when black plays the vital point. You've learned a new Tesuji, George. Tesuji unlocked, the murder your corner Tesuji. Yeah, you see, you found it just without the. You just need to find it without the bad exchange, because this spoils it. Because you don't get the ability to play B anymore, right? So now when you strike at T2, white can just simply extend in the corner, and your thrusting move is not going to have the same effect because now white can make the eye, right? So now you would have to play this one, which is looking to make it bent 4 in the corner. White can go like this, and when black is attempting to bent 4 it, white can play this connection, and it's actually just Seki. It's never going to be possible because when black connects, white has 2 liberties. White will never capture it. So then later, when white ignores and black goes to fill one of the 2, if it's like this, then this one is just easy. White's alive. And if this one, if it's just the same, it's not bent 4 anymore, and white's alive. Right, by 1. So the minute it gets to this point, you cannot kill white anymore. Right, and white has too many outside liberties. If like this, you can't cut because I can just give Atari and I'm alive by 1 liberty. So this exchange A for B spoils it because you lose the throw in. If white makes a mistake trying to force the sequence, then it can be possible. But white should not make a mistake here. It's a pretty straightforward life and death, to be honest. Oh, I say that, and then white fucks up. Now black can make the eye, and it's just a 1 eye versus no eye capturing race. If white plays something like this one, then black can just bulky 5 it. So white trying to capture first doesn't work, and it's Nakade, white is dead. White's hope would be that white could try some Tesuji, maybe something like this, but black will just give Atari on the outside, and it's never working. So if white tries to come from below, this one could also seem a little tricky, but still black can just make it. And it's not really possible for white to live. Oh, but then tragedy strikes again as black also throws the life and death a second time, and then allows white to save it. Painful. Now the game has to go to Yosei again, which is tragic. If black connects, it's a Seki, yeah, but white's going to be alive. Yeah. Yeah, because white's got R1 and T4. The thing about bent 4 is it has to be provable at the end of the game. It would be bent 4 if Q1 was at R1. Because then black could connect, white could take, black could throw in, force the ko, and then prove that it's a bent 4 with all the outside liberties for white being filled. But in this case, when black connects at T1, there's no proof of bent 4 because you can never play R1 or T4. It results in white living. So yeah, no, you should only be winning by like maybe close to Komi, I would think, because the corner is a Seki. It's not bent 4. Yeah. All right, awesome. Fun game. Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, sure thing. All right, catch you around, George. Bye.